Technology moves quickly. Now, the hottest tech trend right now is AI agents. Is this the new normal or a flash in the pan? Today's guest, Archie Chaudhury, will give us the latest information on the AI agent space. Archie, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
So you came highly recommended, from my good buddy Casey, who I love, and he always has the best recommendations. Now, I've actually done a couple episodes on AI agents. I don't know if you know, I used to run a tech show called Open Source, but it's funny. Yeah. So this was last year.
Casey mentioned it.
But it's interesting to see the AI agent space has evolved so much in the last 12 to 18 months. So I definitely knew I need the latest info. Let's start at the beginning for anyone who doesn't know. What are AI agents?
So AI agents are essentially, you can almost think of them as representatives, right? So essentially what the idea there is if you want to interact with, we'll give the most simplest example. If you want your AI chatbot or agent to be able to, your AI chatbot like ChatGPT to be able to represent you on an exchange and make trades for you on your behalf, right? On some stock exchange or crypto exchange, you will need an agent because the chatbot itself can't do that. You need to connect it to the exchange and make sure it has all the information it needs. So realistically, all an agent is an AI model like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, connected to some harness that allows it to access some environment or some information and allows it to interact with said environment.
Okay, so if I'm on a date but I don't want to be there, I'll just send the AI agent. Just go.
Let me know. One day when they have physical bodies, yes, that will be your robotic AI agent going and representing you on the date. Absolutely, that is actually, if they had physical bodies, yes.
Well, I mean, I hear that's going to happen too. So it's interesting, right? So I always think of AI agents; they're kind of like robot employees or something like that. But why do they matter? Is this just some theoretical thing, or what's happening?
So I think the reason agents matter and the market has sort of reacted accordingly is because, you essentially have this paradigm where we went from just 2 years ago, people just using, ChatGPT as a Google search kind of thing. Right. And a lot of people still use it that way.
Sure.
But now you have the ability through, all these, the first thing was coding, right? You put the model, you give it access to your computer, you give it access to some code files, and now it can sort of design applications and design, environments and design entire and full stack workflows. The reason agents are important is because now they can autonomously execute tasks, right? You don't need to go out and manage them, right? With ChatGPT, right, when it first came out, I would I would ask a question, it would give me an answer. I would ask a follow-up, it would give me another answer. But now with Claude Code, which is an agent fundamentally, I can say, hey, build me a website that does X, Y, Z, or build me a web app and I might have to intervene a little bit in the middle to give it some direction. But for the most part, it can go out and autonomously start doing things and executing until it feels like it has reached the goals that I asked it to reach.
So you just tell it to do stuff. You'll just be like, hey, bro, I'm going to go to bed. I want you to build me this really cool app so I can sell used cars, and then I'll check in the morning to make sure it's fine. Something like that.
Absolutely. That is absolutely something I've seen. I've actually seen people do that. It's called vibe coding, right? That is vibe coding. It is asking, hey, Claude, I want to design a website for selling, as you said, used cars. I want to design a drop shipping app or something similar, right? Whatever. Now there usually is a thing called no code where you WordPress and there are all these sites that used to do this, but now you can just ask Claude Code and it'll build something that looks really nice for you.
This is crazy. Now, look, I will say I know a lot about AI agents theoretically. I've never actually used them, but it just seems oh wow. So it's they're really, really evolving to the point where you can really trust them, and that is only going to get more so. I mean, I can't even imagine because AI is already advanced so much. Look, we've got 3 more segments. I want to get into like sort of use cases. I have a lot more questions, but we've got Archie Chaudhury here for 3 more segments on the Spotlight. Welcome back to the Spotlight. I'm here with Archie Chaudhury. Okay, Archie, let's talk about the mainstream. You know, AI is so interesting. It's funny. I actually think like the journalists are kind of terrible at sort of explaining AI because, you know, there's a lot of fear mongering, but I'm not that worried personally. But when it comes to AI agents, you know, you don't really hear that much about them. So that's why I don't know. Like, would you consider AI agents like mainstream? Is this something that's going to hit the mainstream? Like, what do you think?
I think eventually it will. So you would actually be surprised. I actually think the only use case that's taken off right now, like if you analyze it today, is coding, right?
Okay.
So I think today actually SpaceX just announced it's acquiring Cursor, which is sort of the first coding agent startup for $60 billion,
Wow.
right? So coding is like that one use case that's taken off. Cloud Code, Codex, right? These are all sorts of things that have sort of taken off into and essentially if you ask any developer, right, they'll say they're using one of these AI agents in their day-to-day workflow, or else they're actually falling behind, right? It's actually one of those things where you can definitely say if you are a developer or an engineer, software engineer, and you're not using one of these coding agents,
Right.
like you're gonna fall behind.
Yeah.
When it comes to other things, you know, Anthropic released Cloud Codework a couple months ago. I think it's absolutely gonna catch up, but it hasn't caught up to the general population yet, right? Like my dad is a finance guy, right? Works as a CFO and has his own accounting sort of interests. And you know, when I talk to him about this stuff, you know, he uses Claude, but he's not really like using Claude Cowork or like using all these different workflows. So I think like for the average person who is not in a technical engineering AI research role, they're not using agents on a day-to-day basis. And maybe that will change as the user experience gets better.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, like I've been a tech journalist now for 4 years, right? Now this is an entertainment show, but in my view, tech is becoming a larger and larger part of entertainment. So I always make sure I try to stay up to date on technology as much as possible. I'm a power user for ChatGPT. I use it an hour a day, minimum voice mode. Like it's a big part of my workflow, just generally. But you know, it's funny because ChatGPT, I don't know, since they acquired OpenClaw or whatever, like I guess they want to like push their AI agents. So I got an email on my Gmail and it was like, would you like to link ChatGPT to your Gmail? I'm like, no, I don't want you to have info. You'll know every single thing about me. So I'm like, this to me feels like a bottleneck, right? Like there's questions, right? Like how can people access these agents, but also do people want these AI agents to have access to their whole lives?
I don't know. I mean, like it's an interesting question, right? Because you know, you could argue the same thing for social media like 20 years ago, right?
Yep.
Like that maybe probably one of the major pushbacks. Do people want to put their entire life on the internet for everyone to see and look at?
Right.
And obviously, you know, the privacy enthusiasts thought that this wouldn't be the case, and then they ended up being wrong, right? Everyone is now using Instagram. You can pretty much get a direct snapshot of what someone is into and what their interests are and where they are just by looking at their Instagram profile or their Twitter profile or their Facebook profile if they're a bit older.
Right.
So I think, yes, initially there is going to be that pushback like, hey, this is bad and we shouldn't do this. But eventually the benefits will be as so that the trade-off will make sense. That's my thesis. It's my theory of change.
I know that you actually know what you're talking about because you can communicate very simply, right? People who just use the jargon, like it's like, oh, they're full of crap. But you actually, like, you know what you're saying. It's interesting what you say. It's brilliant. I'm actually going to change my question that I was going to ask because of what you said, right? So that's interesting. So are you viewing AI agents as early days of social media where basically it's just this thing that people are like, I don't know about this, I don't know about, but eventually when they start to try it and then everybody's doing like, oh my God, AI agents are the best.
Yeah, I think that is where it's going to go. But this is actually an interesting thing. You ask people who are in the AI space, there's always this discussion of timelines, right? Like when are we going to get this like super takeoff moment when AI becomes a fundamental part of the economy, and there's all this, as you mentioned earlier, all this fear mongering about people are going to lose jobs, all of this. I try not to get too much into that because I think it's a debate that really there is no right or wrong answer because we still don't know yet. What I can say is, yeah, I think we are in the even now, despite the market being like at an all-time high, we're still in terms of actual user adoption and like actual user engagement, we're still in the early days, and there's still a lot more potential for AI technologies to be used in a lot of interesting ways that we haven't come across yet.
Welcome back to the spotlight. I'm here with Archie Chaudhury. Okay, Archie, so let's talk about the future here then. So, I mean, we're not there yet, but to me, I would bet that AI agents are going to hit, especially like what you said about social media and how these are essentially early days for AI agents. People just need to get used to AI agents and then everyone will use them. I buy that argument. I think that's probably right. So let's look ahead. So let's say we're at that time where everyone has an Instagram account, everybody has an AI agent, right? We make that parallel. What does society look like? How will AI agents change society when everyone's using them?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I think you're going to see a massive rate in the growth of entrepreneurship. This is my personal theory of change, right? I think, it's going to be easier than ever to start a business and something you may not necessarily be an expert in, but you have a passion for, right? I often think of this like there's this old like Japanese thing, right? Like of, I forgot the specific term, but it's like having there's things that you need to be good at, things that can make you money, and things that you like, right? And often, unfortunately, for a lot of people, their passion, like what they want to do, won't yield them money or won't actually sort of that is something that they may not be the best in the world at, right? But if AI agents get good enough, right, someone who's very into art but doesn't have like an artistic bone in their body could use AI agents to create art and sell art and like do all of this stuff without and like essentially take all these creative thoughts that are in their head that they can't put into practice and create a business out of it. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more so. I think the economic impact is going to be you're going to see a lot more people who are self-employed. The amount of money and capital influx that people are going to have to be able to spend on things is going to increase. And you're just going to see an increased efficiency in work. I think that when people talk about sort of negative effects, it's going to be there may be a slight blowback in like junior developers being replaced by AI agents, but I think a lot of those people are either going to upskill or they're going to start their own businesses.
Look, you're an interesting guy to talk to, right? Because you have a way of taking these complex ideas and distilling them down to very, very simple, understandable elements. Okay, so let's say you're right. So let's say everybody's starting businesses because you're like, all right, I kind of like cars, like maybe I can start, like a car parts business on the side. You just get your AI agent to start looking for clients and then you find some people and stuff. So if everybody's launching businesses, like what kind of impact is that going to make on society then?
Yeah, I think the impact will be, I think you're going to see in the start, you're going to see a massive capital influx. And you've seen, people like Elon Musk or even people on the, other side of the political spectrum, right? Like Bernie Sanders argue for this like universal basic income. I don't think we're going to go that far immediately, but there's definitely going to be, I think there's going to be enough of an influx in the economy due to the automation efficiency increase that people are going to have a lot more capital in their pockets to spend. So you're going to see a lot more of these like creative outlets and consumption sort of happening, right? Like you're going to see people just selling art and you're going to see people sort of selling like creative things that they've created using AI. Or like, as you mentioned, like maybe people are now like have more time and energy and they can dedicate effort to designing cars or like retrofitting cars to make them more better. And because of this, the whole like initially you're going to see just a lot more a society that's a lot more geared towards using creative and intellectual outlets for fun rather than just using them at your job.
Wow, it's interesting. Look, we only have 90 seconds to the break, but you're essentially talking about automating the economy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's realistic? Is this like we only have a minute, but it's like it's a loaded thing, but like, do you think that's possible? Like, actually?
I think it's possible. Now, again, there's the complex thing is timelines, right? Do I think it's possible in the next 5 years? No. But do I think it'll be possible that given the progress we've seen up until now, and assuming that the scale up we've seen with verifiable tasks like coding, some degree science, data science, experimentation, people have used AI agents for spreadsheets. If that continues across other trends, then yeah, you're going to see a good amount of the economy being, I don't know if automated is the right word, but definitely an increase in automation and a decrease in the manual labor required to achieve things and do things.
How many years?
If I had to guess, it'll be 10 to 15, but it might be less, right? My guess in 2024 was we're going to be like 5 to 6 years away before we see like an autonomous coding agent. And I was obviously wrong. It was only 2.
Amazing. Look, fascinating conversation with Archie Chaudhury on the Spotlight. Welcome back to the Spotlight. I'm here with Archie Chaudhury. All right, Archie, you're blowing my mind, but like in a casual way, like it's like you're just smoking a cigarette by the bar. Like, yeah, everything's going to change. It's fine. It's cool. Like, and I can tell you really believe it, and you may be right because you're not selling anything. You're just telling me what you think, right? So, okay, let's look at a realistic timeline. Okay, let's say 10 years.
Okay,
what kind of impact do you think AI agents are going to make on all of society in 10 years?
So I think it's like this is an extension of sort of what we were just talking about, right? I think in 10 years, let's assume that these agents are advanced enough to sort of autonomously execute tasks. They can replace like your average, like it's just the number one. I like using examples as you've seen, right? Like imagine you were a marketing, person working in marketing, right? The majority of your day is probably spent making presentations, copywriting, right? Like sending out emails and making social media posts, so on and so forth. In 10 years' time, the idea is you would just tell your AI agent, hey, I need this, this, and this done. You have access to my email. You have access to my social media, the company social media profile. You have access to Google Docs or Microsoft Word, right? And let's get these things done. And all of these manual tasks, like the 8 hours a day, will be replaced by the AI agent that you can manage. And then you have time to now focus on like, okay, rather than thinking about, okay, what I need to get done today, how do I make sure that we can start a new campaign for the company to like drastically grow our following, right? How do I think of the big picture ideas? And the interesting thing is, if you hear someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk talk about what they do in their day-to-day lives, it's actually a lot more big picture versus small picture. That's how executives think and work. And I think that's because of the fact that AI is going to automate a lot of this stuff, you're going to see a greater emphasis being placed on the ability to think in big picture terms rather than needing to be like, doing day-to-day monotonous work. And that's like the number one thing that's going to be changed. Is like you're going to see a decrease in monotonous day-to-day work, right? The emphasis is not going to be on like completing tasks every day. The emphasis is going to be, okay, can you actually, as an individual who wants to function in society, you're going to have to be someone who wants to think on the big picture and has sort of creative ambitions.
Okay, so then do you think that, people are so scared about losing all the jobs, but maybe what you're suggesting is it's more of a societal pivot, right? So instead of a culture of employees, you're essentially advocating we're going to become a culture of entrepreneurs. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. Yes. And I think being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you have to start your own business. Like in many cases, the best fit for like a lead engineer at a company or a startup is someone who's entrepreneurial, someone who can come up with new ideas, think outside the box. And this is something that's emphasized today. But I think you're going to see more of this now that AI agents are going to be automating a lot of that rote work.
Okay, so basically, it's like the skill set's going to change, right? Like essentially, companies, when they do hire people, look, people can start their own businesses. You can do it now. But the people who are going to be in demand to work for companies are going to be more of these big picture thinkers.
And it's something you can't necessarily test on a test, right? It's not going to be like, oh, you had a 4.0 GPA in college at engineering, right? It's like rather, oh, you solved this massive problem, or you knew how to leverage AI or leverage AI agents to solve this massive problem, and that's why we want to hire you.
Okay, look, we got a minute left. What are your final thoughts on AI agents?
I think the term has become, as you mentioned earlier, when you hear people talking about AI agents, there's this lot of jargon, this technical jargon. There's sort of this like, economy of scale and all these other things that people talk about. I think the number one thing that if there was one thing to take away from our conversation, just like anything of AI agents in general, is that they're here to be of help. Right now, obviously, if you're, you should keep your privacy and like all these other things into account. But at the end of the day, I think if you're someone who's watching this show, or if you're like hearing about AI agents, the best thing you can do is sort of like start interacting with them, right? Like the mainstream ones, like Claude Cowork, OpenAI Codex, like using them will enable you to sort of see, okay, wait, there's a lot of cool things that these agents can help me with, right? They can help automate like responding to an email if I set it up correctly, which like, so for some people it takes up a lot of their time.
Amazing.
So
Fascinating
yeah,
conversation, Archie. I'm going to have to end it there. You've got a lot to say. You've taught us a lot, but thank you so much.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
We've been hearing quite a lot about AI agents for a while now. Now, has the potential finally been realized, or is this just another tech fad? We'll see you next time on The Spotlight.